On March 28, 2025, Myanmar was struck by a devastating earthquake with a magnitude of 7.7. The earthquake occurred at 12:50 local time, with the epicenter located about 17 kilometers west of Mandalay, Myanmar's second-largest city. The impact of the earthquake was significant, causing severe damage across various regions, particularly in Sagaing and Mandalay. Buildings collapsed, including schools and places of worship, killing over 3,300 people and injuring thousands more. The tremors were also felt in neighboring countries. In Thailand, the strong vibrations caused damage, including the collapse of a skyscraper in Bangkok, which killed at least 22 people. The government and the international community quickly provided assistance. The Japanese government announced an emergency grant of $6 million, while Indonesia sent medical and logistical teams to help the victims. Although rescue efforts have been completed, attention has now turned to recovery and humanitarian aid for the millions of people affected. However, these efforts are hindered by the ongoing internal conflict in Myanmar. On March 28, 2025, Myanmar experienced a devastating earthquake with a magnitude of 7.7, known as the Great Mandalay Earthquake. It occurred at 12:50 local time, with the epicenter approximately 17 kilometers west of Mandalay. This earthquake was the largest in Myanmar since 1930, causing severe damage in the Sagaing and Mandalay regions. Buildings collapsed, including schools and places of worship, killing over 3,300 people and injuring thousands more. The conversion of some Myanmar citizens to Islam after the earthquake is a phenomenon that can be linked to several factors, including social, psychological, and spiritual factors that emerge as a result of a major natural disaster. Although there is no concrete data or reports directly stating that the number of people converting to Islam significantly increased after the earthquake in Myanmar, it is understood that disasters like earthquakes often influence changes in a person's religious beliefs. An earthquake, as a destructive natural disaster, can cause many people to experience feelings of loss and confusion, both physically and emotionally. In such situations, many people seek ways to cope with fear and uncertainty. Religion often becomes an escape for those seeking inner peace and hope. Islam, with its teachings on destiny, patience, and prayer, may become a choice for some individuals seeking tranquility and an explanation for the tragedy they have experienced. After the earthquake, various humanitarian organizations managed by Muslim communities, both local and international, are often involved in rescue and recovery efforts. They may provide food, medicine, shelter, and psychological support to the victims. Additionally, they may offer information and knowledge about Islam to the disaster-affected community. This process can create opportunities for some individuals to learn more about Islam and eventually choose to embrace it. Earthquakes often cause widespread damage to infrastructure and the economy, which in turn can affect people's way of life. In such situations, individuals may be more open to seeking spiritual solutions as a coping mechanism. Moreover, in some cases, there are also groups that experience changes in their social and cultural orientation, which may eventually lead them to embrace Islam. In Myanmar, although the majority of the population is Buddhist, there is also a Muslim population, particularly in regions such as Rakhine. The influence of Islamic culture and religion in this area is quite significant, and in some cases, individuals influenced by Islam through social interaction or assistance from Muslim communities may decide to convert. History shows that in many disaster or crisis events, individuals or even groups may change their religion in response to their spiritual and emotional needs. This has happened in many places around the world, and Myanmar could be an example where such a process took place after a major disaster, albeit on a potentially limited scale. However, it is important to note that while this phenomenon exists, the social, political, and religious factors in Myanmar are very complex. Religious conversion in disaster situations does not always occur in large numbers and is often influenced by many other factors, including social pressure, perceptions of particular religions, and interactions between different religious groups. After a natural disaster such as an earthquake, there are several additional factors that can strengthen or accelerate religious conversion among the population, especially in the context of Myanmar. Earthquakes often cause deep trauma for victims, whether they have lost family, homes, or even entire communities. In times of sorrow and loss, many people seek comfort and hope. Islam, with its teachings about the afterlife, fate, and the importance of inner peace, can provide a sense of security and explanation for the tragedy that has occurred. Learning about tawakkul, trust in fate, and patience in facing life's trials becomes part of the recovery process for many involved in the disaster. Psychological support in the form of religious assistance is also often well received by people who feel empty after a disaster. Dawah programs that emphasize the importance of inner peace and mental tranquility can be especially appealing to those who feel that their lives no longer have direction after the earthquake. In the midst of a crisis, social and religious identities often undergo changes. When traditional religious beliefs or community practices are shaken by major events, people tend to seek alternatives that can offer a sense of stability. In some cases, a new religion may provide an answer for those who feel marginalized or oppressed by the existing social and political conditions. For instance, in Myanmar, the long-standing religious tensions, especially between the Muslim and Buddhist communities, can lead some individuals or groups to seek a new identity through a religion that may be seen as more inclusive or offering safety in difficult situations. This process of conversion is sometimes influenced by direct experiences with Muslim individuals or groups who come to help and show solidarity in the face of disaster. Natural disasters like earthquakes not only affect physical lives but also spread information rapidly through social media and technology. After the earthquake, many victims or volunteers share their experiences through various social media platforms. In many cases, this becomes an opportunity for Dawah groups to introduce Islamic teachings more widely. Social media also allows people to connect with Muslim communities abroad that can offer material, moral, and spiritual support. Islamic teachings promoted through videos, writings, or online lectures can influence individuals who previously did not have direct access to Muslim communities or Islamic teachings. Moreover, in post-disaster situations, individuals seeking peace or explanations about their lives may be more open to exploring the religion offered to them through digital media. Sometimes, in the face of disaster, different religions work together to provide humanitarian aid. For example, if Muslim groups collaborate with Buddhist or Christian communities to provide assistance after an earthquake, it can lead to social interactions that open opportunities for interfaith understanding. This can create interfaith dialogues that introduce positive aspects of Islam to people who were previously not exposed to its teachings. This cooperation can influence the views of those who witness peace and unity among religions. When aid arrives without regard to religious background, individuals may begin to see the universal values in Islam, such as helping others, brotherhood, and peace, which may make them more open to learning about it further. Another important factor is the level of openness in society toward religious differences. In Myanmar, despite significant religious tension between Buddhists and Muslims, there are parts of the population that may be more open to other religions when they feel that the religion offers practical solutions to their problems, especially in times of hardship such as post-earthquake. In situations full of uncertainty, religions that emphasize spirituality and acceptance of fate can be very appealing. For some, conversion to Islam can be a form of searching for new meaning in life after experiencing a disaster that has changed their world. Although there is no direct evidence showing that mass conversions occurred after the earthquake in Myanmar, there are many factors that can explain how natural disasters can influence someone to change their religion. With social unrest, a deeper search for the meaning of life, help from the Muslim community, and the role of religion in the healing process, some individuals may see Islam as the answer to overcome the difficulties they are experiencing. However, it is important to remember that the process of religious conversion is a very personal matter and is influenced by many complex factors, both external, such as natural disasters, and internal, such as spiritual seeking. The lives of Muslims and Buddhists in Myanmar, after disasters like earthquakes, reflect a complex situation influenced by pre-existing social, political, and religious factors. Myanmar, where the majority of the population practices Buddhism, has a Muslim minority, particularly in the Rakhine region, who have long faced social and religious tensions. After a natural disaster, the dynamics between these two groups often become more complicated, or in some cases, show solidarity. Here are some factors that influence the relationship between the Muslim and Buddhist communities in Myanmar post-earthquake. Natural disasters, such as earthquakes, often force individuals and groups from various backgrounds to cooperate in addressing hardships. In post-disaster emergencies, humanitarian aid often becomes the primary focus, and this provides opportunities for Muslims and Buddhists to collaborate. Traditionally, in many cases, Myanmar's society may be more divided along religious lines, but in times of crisis, solidarity often becomes more prominent. For example, humanitarian aid such as food, shelter, or medicine might come from various organizations, including those run by Muslim groups. It is possible that some Buddhist and Muslim groups united in providing aid to earthquake victims regardless of religion. This moment could create positive relations between the two communities, although the existing social tensions continue to persist. However, despite the solidarity often created in emergency situations, the deep-rooted social tensions between the Buddhist and Muslim communities in Myanmar remain a barrier to everyday interactions. These tensions, which have existed long before the natural disaster, are often fueled by political, ethnic, and religious factors. In regions like Rakhine, tensions between the Rohingya Muslim community and the Buddhist majority are particularly intense. Although humanitarian aid is provided by various parties, the pre-existing political and social realities could exacerbate post-earthquake relations. The distrust and ongoing tensions between the two groups may affect their collaboration, even in times of crisis. After the earthquake, many people seek peace and comfort in their faith. For both Muslims and Buddhists, their respective religions have teachings and spiritual practices that can aid in the process of inner recovery. However, the ways in which religion is used in recovery may differ, depending on each person's religious background and beliefs. Buddhism emphasizes peace, self-control, and acceptance of suffering. Post-disaster, many Buddhists may focus on meditation and virtuous practices to achieve inner calm and deal with trauma. Islam, on the other hand, emphasizes patience, tawakkul, trust in God's will, and prayer as ways to cope with life's trials. Post-earthquake, Muslims may rely more on collective prayer, dhikr, remembrance of God, and salat to seek peace. In some cases, efforts to understand one another and share in these spiritual recovery processes could become a meeting point for both communities. This could create an opportunity for interfaith dialogue and a greater understanding of each other's religious teachings. Politically, Myanmar experiences sharp tensions between the government, which is dominated by Buddhist ethnic groups, and the Muslim minority, particularly the Rohingya. While the earthquake may prompt a humanitarian response that reduces tensions temporarily, inequality and discrimination against Muslim groups, especially the Rohingya, are often not fully avoidable. After the earthquake, although there may be social interactions that strengthen interfaith relationships, the deep political inequality between Muslims and Buddhists in Myanmar often limits these interactions. For example, Muslim groups may feel marginalized in the distribution of humanitarian aid or receive unequal services compared to Buddhist groups. The Myanmar government has a controversial history in handling religious and ethnic issues, especially regarding the treatment of the Rohingya Muslims. In some cases, the government may not provide aid fairly to all religious groups, which causes further tensions between communities. International organizations, such as humanitarian groups, are often involved in providing assistance to address these issues. On the other hand, some Muslim and Buddhist groups collaborate in organizing humanitarian programs, although the government may restrict their access in certain areas or even impose obstacles based on religion. International organizations working in Myanmar often try to address this issue by providing aid fairly, although challenges remain in fostering peaceful relationships between the involved communities. Despite the potential for reconciliation and peace in the post-disaster situation, the social dynamics in Myanmar remain challenging. Tensions that have existed for years, both between Buddhist and Muslim groups and within the country as a whole, often prevent the establishment of stable and peaceful relations. However, there are also examples of success where, in the context of disaster, some Muslim and Buddhist communities have worked together to help others, highlighting more universal humanitarian values rather than those limited by religious differences. These events can serve as an opportunity to demonstrate that humanitarian solidarity can overcome greater barriers, even amid social and political difficulties. The lives of Muslims and Buddhists in Myanmar after the earthquake reflect a reality full of contradictions. On one hand, there is an opportunity to strengthen relationships through cooperation in providing humanitarian aid and spiritual recovery. On the other hand, the long-standing social and political tensions remain a significant barrier to achieving true peace between the two communities. The role of religion in the post-earthquake recovery process is highly significant, but the challenges in creating more harmonious relationships between Muslims and Buddhists in Myanmar remain substantial, particularly due to the political background and the deep historical tensions.